right, welcome. Welcome to our module on images and making better images for artists. I'm Jack Wahab and joined by Ruth Lance. We work on Creative Lattice and Crit Connection together, and this program is brought to you by Public Art for Racial Justice Education. Creative Lattice is a free website for artist professional development where you'll find lots of videos just like this one. And Ruth, Crit Connection?
Crit Connection is a networking program for artists where artists are matched each month for networking opportunities such as studio visits or resource sharing. Yeah, and it's a great networking opportunity for people.
Yeah. And our whole goal here is to create equitable and easily accessible ways for artists to have better careers and have better networks. And that is something that we really value the arts and thinks that this should be an equitable thing. All right, so why do we need good images? We need high quality photos because they can make or break our art's impact for other people. You know, everything from applications, which gives you a first impression of your artwork, to grants and shows, to press, where they use your work to represent your work, to represent what you're doing. They use these images, and online, right? Through Instagram, that's how a lot of people will see your work. And so that's
Yeah,
the truth, right?
the majority of people only look at art online, unfortunately. So, and then it seems like, you know, so much art now is being kind of funneled into what looks good online. So, so much of paintings, bright colors, geometric shapes. So it
Mm.
seems like we're
Or
sort of
figurative, the rise
or
of
figurative.
thing, right? And because that comes over on Instagram super well. And I think if it's really good, really good art, you have to see in person because of the texture and the materials and the surface. But that's not to say that you shouldn't make your artwork really shine an image as well. And and it's a little controversial, but I think don't be afraid to Photoshop your work and just give it a little punch and make it a little juicier for that image.
Especially to capture your color, because
Mhm.
color can be difficult to get just with a lens.
Yeah, and you want to be representative of the work, but you can still make it look really good in photo. All right, essential image types, and we'll give you examples of all these. There's the far away shot. These are great for giving context and scale. It's where you see the artwork and then the floor. There's the close-up shot. These are good for showing a little more detail and texture. That's on there like a white background. Usually has a little shadow underneath the artwork. There's the tight crop where it's cropped up to the edges of the artwork. All you see is just the artwork. And then there's detail shots and installation shots. So this is artwork on a wall. You can see the floor. It's great for a large work. It would be really bad for a small work. Let's say you have like a 3-inch painting. Like this is not the way to represent it. This is a close-up. So, oh no, this is a close-up on the wall. So you don't see the floor. You see a little bit of shadow underneath the artwork. And these are all examples of good images. We'll get into good versus bad. This is a full crop. So this actually isn't a full crop. There is like a little bit of white all around it. I think of a full crop as only the image. You don't see any edges. And that's one of the benefits of this close-up is that you do see the edges of the painting. And sometimes people enjoy seeing those edges.
And it's interesting, those sort of go in and out as to what is preferred. Sometimes it's the tight crop, sometimes it's the back away. But one thing I will say is if you're going to go tight crop, have all of your singular artwork, particularly in painting, be tight crop. If you're going to go just a close up like that, to have like a consistency is what I would recommend. Yeah.
Usually when I'm going processing images these days, I have one of each. I have a tight crop, I have close up on the wall, and then I have a tight crop of just the artwork. But you're right, for like grants and proposals, usually it's, you only share one or the other. Um, and we have a whole module on grants and applications, and we talk more about that. This is a good install shot. It's, the lighting's good. You see the paintings on the wall. Of course, it's a super fancy gallery space, and not all of us have access to that. But it is a good example of a good install shot. So let's get into good versus bad images. A good image is well lit, sharp, it's not blurry, true colors. There are no distractions, and bad images have poor lighting. They're blurry, they're distorted. There's clutter in the background. This is an example of a bad image.
Very
Um,
bad.
so poor lighting. I think this is actually like in a frame, which is like because you can see the signature on the bottom. The background is not white balanced, so I mean that we don't know. That background could be gray, but it's probably white, and it just is bad color. There's a reflection, that big white spot, and the image is out of skew, which is also, very distracting for most people. This is a good image, as we saw before. The colors look good, the background is white, there are no reflections, the image is square, and the shadow on the bottom looks realistic.
So this is a question, Jack, that how do you feel about uh, photoshopping in photos or shadows on
Unless you're really good at
images?
it, it's hard. Um,
Hmm.
and so I don't know. It's kind of potato potato. I think a lot of people probably aren't as nerdy as I am, so they won't notice a bad shadow. So maybe just do it,
Yeah, it
but
was just a.
try and do it well.
I've never done it, but I'm always like, I wonder what that would look like.
I've done it. And it was okay, but it never looks quite as good, even though like I'm
Hmm.
pretty good at it. It never looks quite as good as a natural shadow. And it's not that hard to get a natural shadow. And we have we're going to have a module and where I'm going to walk you through how I process images in Photoshop, and then I think Pixlr is like a free program that can allow you to do it too. But I will say we were talking earlier about paying attention to details, and this is just something that grows with practice. And you're not going to get all the details at the beginning, but it's something to, keep in your toolbox and keep paying attention and come back here and look at the good images versus bad images and how it relates to your work, and just pay attention to all the little things. Um, so here's some more examples. These are some images I took of my work. This is from a record painting. It's the left one, again, out of skew. It's just on a wall. You can see on like the top right of the image, there's like a dot on the wall. That's something that's distracting that I would Photoshop out. There's like a shadow on the right. I just took a picture of it on a chair. Also really bad. This is good. You sort of see that shadow on the bottom. Um, I would say one complaint that I would have here is that on the right hand side, I could sort of still see like a little bit of, I can see the white versus this like pinkness of the wall. So I would have photoshopped that out now that I see it. But that's, a minor complaint. This is much better than this. Here are two examples of bad detail shots. The one on the left is just not helpful. Um, you see this good image, and then you see this as a detail, it's not helpful. The one on the right, super blurry. This would be a good detail. You can see, it shows the medium, it has some sort of engaging content, and it's a full crop. So these are an example of bad sculpture image. The coloration is wrong. The shadows are so wonky. You have the little sold tags. This is a much better representation of those images.
That was the same image. Yeah. Yeah. The other one was very yellowy, like
Yeah.
just terrible lighting.
Yeah. Here's also two good close-ups. And and this is an artist named Tal Weist, who I met a long time ago. And I love how on the right one on the right he puts his hand in, and that gives a good sense of scale. And so we'll talk about it later, but like doing some research. I hate Instagram, but going on Instagram and seeing how other people are representing their work in a good way is a good way to get inspiration.
I think with sculpture, and we'll talk about it with these, but I think the space that it's in is really important. Like the ones before it, it was all like a white
Yep.
background, so it's probably on like a white roll of paper. Whereas like the next one, it's in the space, so you see the floor and the wall.
Mhm.
So I think the way where you are placing it and the context that it's in is just as important as the image itself. So
Yep.
thinking about the overarching context of the
And this one having like a little bit of shadow underneath it again is like really good because I've heard critique of the sculpture if you just cut out the sculpture and it's only on white without any shadow. A lot of people don't like that. They want a little bit of shadow to give you some reference of it in space. Here's two install shots. This was a show I had a few years ago. The one on the left, super messy, right? There's like a ladder in the background. There's some like packaging stuff. The one on the right, small complaint, but there's like a bottle sitting there. Come on, Jack. Um, Another bad install shot. There's like a guy walking through it, and then the white balance is off as well.
sometimes depending on the gallery space that you're in, sometimes it's hard to white balance it because the gallery space is poorly lit.
Yep,
Um,
you do your best.
but so you do your best. So you might have to, that's where Photoshop comes in really handy because you might have to brighten the walls like in this one.
Yep. And I'd say this one is pretty good. The coloration might not be perfect, but it gets across the blue of the paintings and the white the background might not be fully white balanced, but I'd say this is good enough and it's very representational. And I like how all the paintings are within the frame as well. And then,
Hmm.
and then it's a nice angle. Something to keep in mind when you're taking these install shots is angle, and then what is your center of focus. This is like a long line, and then there's this nice, the eye is sort of drawn to the center a little more. All right, capturing and compelling install shots show the entire space and context, include elements that interact with the work. Um, Using multiple angles, ensure good lighting is important, and remove all non-art related items like any soda bottles, or even if like I've had people move the like front desk out of the way in order to take a good install shot. Um,
And I'm not opposed to having a person in the space to give a sense of scale. I just feel like it needs, like you had a person like randomly walking in on
yeah,
that one. So I just feel like if you do that, it needs to be sort of staged and intentional. So it
a lot of
adds to
people
the
are using it today
composition.
as like a person walking by, or like if you go on like I don't know, all these like Shutterstock or like photo websites, they have like someone walking by the artwork or like the back of their head looking at the artwork.
Hmm. But I feel like it can help get a sense of scale.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It can look very good to have somebody in there. Not necessary. Um, File formats. So when people ask for a high res image, it means 300 dpi, that's dots per inch. You can find that in your image editing software. This is usually for print materials as for such a high quality. Normally for digital use or email, social, 72 dpi is good enough. Um, I usually save my high res I use JPEGs. A lot of people, some people use TIFF, or those are just the file formats. JPEGs have a little compression in them, but I'd never found that to be an issue. So I just save mine as JPEGs at the highest quality for 300 DPI for my high res. That's a 12 in Photoshop, and then at 70 DPI, I give it more compression, like a 5 or 6.
I will
State,
say when I edit my own photos, I always use JPEGs, but I had them edited by another person once and they wanted the TIFFs. So I would always save both versions.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, because I've looked at them in like really close up, and I really can't tell the difference between the TIFF and the JPEG if it's saved on, high. But I guess there's more information in the TIFF.
There's
Uh,
more information and it's lossless.
you know, so
So
there you go. Keeping your files organized is important, right? So I use this as my naming. Everybody should has something different, but I use artwork name underscore size underscore medium underscore date underscore 300 DPI. And then I will sometimes do another underscore with if it's on the wall or detail or a full crop. And so I like, it becomes very organized in that way.
that's
Um,
very similar to mine. Yeah.
yep. And so, an example of a large would be artwork name underscore 12 IN, that's inch by 12 IN. And for the by, I use an X. Um, underscore oil on canvas, underscore 2024, underscore 300 DPI dot JPEG. And the same for the small is exactly the same, but it's 72 DPI. And so note for, your computer program, this is where, Mr. Spreadsheet, Jack LaHave here, um, I use the idea of capitals um, to give yourself instead of a space, because a lot of computer programs won't like spaces, and they might get confused if you're uploading it to a grant application. So I don't use any spaces. I just use underscores, and then within each section, let's say I have artwork name, I will use capitals to differentiate the different words. Also, don't use any special characters like dollar signs or quotation marks for inches. Spell out the IN, and then using your underscore is important. And then look around, look on Instagram, see how others are representing their work to give you ideas. Sculpture represented with hands. I'm a big fan of artists on ladders. It like shows artists at work for those like selfies. Um, so
It
look,
also helps to give scale,
yep.
artist on ladders, you know?
Um, More pitfalls: bad lighting, unnecessary objects in frames, blurry and glare reflections. Just remember to pay attention to the small details and you'll be good.
So
And,
just if you are new to taking your own photographs and you don't have lighting or a lighting setup, taking your photo outdoors on a bright but cloudy day
mhm,
um, can be some ways to get like even lighting. But the problem with that is like, how do you hang it? You
yeah,
know? But if you have small work, that might be something that you could, some way to start.
yeah. And
Um,
then you can just crop it and have it be a full crop image
mhm.
and you're good. I will say I use a lot of Photoshop, and so I just take images in my studio under fluorescent light, and I've never had anyone complain. I just Photoshop the crap out of it afterwards.
Yeah, I have a lighting kit and then I
Mhm.
try and light them. Some of my paintings are really big, so sometimes it gets really hard.
Yep,
And they have some of them have like reflective surfaces and
that's the
I
problem.
try and make it as hard as possible
Yep,
for myself to light
that's
things.
glare on images is like a huge headache. And so we have a whole module on taking images with your cell phone. So check that out as well.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks for attending, and please be sure to check out creativelattice.com where we have tons of modules from everything to getting a gallery, networking, to taking images with your cell phone. Thanks.
Thank you.